Hey, Paul here with Nissan of Portland. I want to talk to you today a little bit about leasing and just kind of break down some of the real basics of it. Leasing gets brought up pretty much every time I have a customer come in who's looking for a new car. I always want to make sure that they have both the options. I'll lay out the numbers for a purchase for them and lay out the numbers for a lease for them and kind of go over the benefits of both of them. Purchasing a car works great for some people, leasing a car works great for some people too. It just really depends on your current situation, how long you like to keep your cars, how much you like to drive every year, and just a few different variables. One of them being the car itself. Some cars lease better than other cars. So there's a few terms that get thrown around whenever you hear about leasing. You'll hear things like the cap cost reduction, money factor, residual value. Those are just different terms for things you're probably already familiar with. First off, your cap cost is just the total price of the car. After you negotiate it down, I'm sure you're a great negotiator, you can bring the car down to a price that works for you. You've got that whole price, plus any fees and tax. We don't have tax because we live in Oregon, which is awesome, but if you have tax, yeah, that gets added on there too. With a lease, however, your tax is actually going to be based on only the half of the car that you're paying for, not the other half. The other half gets taken care of later. So if your cap cost reduction, which is any money that's coming off of that, so basically your down payment or any sort of factory incentives. Let's say you hear some sort of special online or on TV or something, lease a car right now with $1,000 customer cash back. That doesn't mean that you're going to lease the car and then in a month they're going to send you a check for $1,000. That means that instead of you coming up with $1,000 for a down payment, the bank is going to come up with $1,000 for your down payment. That's your customer cash back. That's part of the cap cost reduction. Another thing you have to consider is the money factor. Money factor is your interest rate. It always seems like a very, very low number, 0.0000. I think there's like the lowest one you can do is 0 point and then 4 zeros and a 1. That's the lowest by law because the money factor has to have value. You can't have an absolute 0%. That's as close as you can get to 0%. Basically, you multiply whatever the money factor is by 2,400 and it gives you an APR. That's the easiest way I can explain it. There's a whole formula behind it that gets to show you why it's 2,400. Don't want to get into the whole formula right now, but that's the basic. And then you have the residual value. The residual value is what the lease will be worth at the end. So let's say you're on a 3-year lease on a $20,000 car and the bank has put a 50% residual value. Typically you want to find a residual value that's higher than 50%, but I'm just, for the sake of argument saying 50%. That means your residual value is now $10,000. So you're paying on everything but that $10,000. So take that $10,000 and hold it aside. Now you're paying for everything else in the time that you're leasing that car. So you're going to have full factory warranty because, obviously it's a brand new car that you're leasing. Usually maintenance included, especially if you're buying a Nissan, you're going to get your maintenance included in that too. You have all of your payments to be made in that 36 months and your interest is applied to each individual payment, which is different than a purchase because a purchase has an annual percentage rate, an APR, and the way a purchase works is you'll actually end up paying more interest towards the beginning of the loan, and until you kind of paid off most of that interest, you're not putting a whole lot of your money towards the actual principal of the car. Whereas with a lease, you know exactly how much of the principal you're taking away. It's that portion that you're not paying on the residual, if that makes sense. So you have the residual being held aside, and the rest of the car that you have now divided into 36 months, which is your standard lease term. So you make your 36 payments. Now at the end, you've got the $10,000 left over to deal with. What happens at the end of the lease? Most people think like, okay, I rented the car, now I've got to give it back, and now I'm stuck with nothing. Basically what you've done is it's almost like a rent to own. You've paid half the car off, now you get to decide what you want to do with the other half. Do you want to purchase it? Well, that's up to you. Did you like the car? Do you want to keep it? Do you see yourself driving this for another 3 or 4 years? If so, fantastic. Call up your bank, call up your dealership, call up whoever you want and tell them, hey, really like the car, really want to keep driving it. And they'll say, fantastic, how do you want to settle the rest of that $10,000? You can finance that for however short or long you want to. Let's say you were managed to save up $10,000 in the last 3 years. Just pay it all off in one go and you get to keep the car. They'll send you the title, same as if you did a purchase. Let's say at the end of 3 years, you're like me, and something new and shiny has come along, or your lifestyle's changed and you want to get out of that lease. Well, that's always an option too. So at the end of the 3 years, the bank has said the car's worth $10,000. Now, do you have to buy it for $10,000? Not at all. The bank is basically on the line for that much money. By the bank, I mean the manufacturer. They're usually the ones making the cars and usually the ones financing these leases too. So the manufacturer, they're on the hook for that $10,000. If you say, I don't want this car anymore, thanks a lot, it's been nice, here you go, have the keys, I'm done, that's totally fine. The manufacturer will then take the car, they'll send it out to auction, and they'll try to make their money back. If they can't, then that's their problem. You don't have to, your ties have basically been cut with the car at that point. But let's say the car is worth more than the residual. Let's say you've driven the car for 3 years, you don't drive a lot of miles, it's the kind of car that holds its value really well. Fantastic. Now you've driven the car for 3 years, it's worth maybe 11 or 12,000. The residual is only 10. So you get to use that equity however you want. If you wanted to trade the car in against something else entirely, fantastic. If you wanted to sell the car, pay the bank back their 10,000, they're happy. You get to keep a little bit extra money in your pocket. You're happy. Now you can move on and you can do something else. If you want to lease another car, manufacturers make it very lucrative because they know a person at the end of their lease has to do something. So they want your business really bad at that time. You can take your car back to the manufacturer or the dealership or whoever that you leased the car from in the first place and say, hey, my lease is coming to an end and I really want to get into another car. What can you do for me? And you will be very surprised as to what these manufacturers and what these dealerships are willing to do. There's always some sort of customer loyalty programs or, down payment assistance or something that they'll be able to do to help you get into another car and keep you as a happy customer who's going to keep coming back, getting a new car that's going to be under warranty, that's going to have all the maintenance taken care of, that's going to have really a low cost of ownership every single time. Now, if you want to break the chain at any point and just purchase the car that you're in and keep it for a really long time and stop getting new cars all the time, that's totally fine. It's always your option to do that. And that's really the basics of leasing. Kind of like a purchase, but instead of, paying all your payments every month until you own the car and keeping it for a really long time, kind of gives you a pause in the middle to determine, do I really want to keep this car or do I want to do something else? Also, it kind of helps keep your payments low. There's multiple reasons why, and different cars are going to be different for different reasons. If you ever have any questions and you live in the Portland area and you want to come by and see me, see some cars, see some lease numbers, give me a call.